Hello, and welcome to I Hate Your Taste in Movies. This is a movie podcast where we talk about the movies we love and have our friends rip them apart until we cry. You can find us on Twitter at I Hate Your Taste and on Instagram at Hate Your Taste Pod. So this week we decided to do something a little bit different. We're doing a mini episode.
Whoop, whoop.
I don't know how mini it's going to be, but
Probably
we're trying.
pretty long. I'm Jackie.
I'm Jen.
I'm Austin.
And we're going to break it down into the stuff we loved this month. We're going to start with movies. So who's seen a new movie this month?
Yeah, a movie that we did not watch for the podcast.
This month was like higher. It was higher movie ratio than I usually have because I was trying really hard to do the 31 Days of Horror challenge from shout out to Nightmare on Film Street, fellow Canadian podcast. They're awesome. But they have a challenge of 31 Days of Horror, and they like have a different category for every day of the month. And I started so strong. I made it like a week and a half. I was plowing through movies. It was fantastic. And then I definitely fell off mid-month. So I still have more movies than I usually watch, but I didn't do as well as I would have hoped. But we can get into some specifics. Did you guys have a good month for movie watching?
I would like to know what your favorite movie is you watched this month. Try and narrow it down to one if possible.
Oh boy.
And maybe while Austin thinks, we'll go to Jen.
Yeah, so I was also trying to do 31 Days of Horror. I wasn't doing a challenge like Austin. I wasn't doing like the lists for many of the places that give out like suggestions. I watch horror movies all the time anyway. It's like, I'm just going to try to watch some ones that are new to me that I haven't seen.
Not much of a challenge.
I also fell off and did not consistently watch a horror movie every day, so I'm sorry. But the first one I watched was actually a movie called Pyewacket, which I did like.
Sorry, say that again?
Pyewacket.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I'm going to spell it for you.
Please.
Pyewacket. Pyewacket.
Okay, sure, that makes sense, like, word-wise, but what does that even mean?
It's like the name of like an ancient kind of witch thing.
Okay.
So it was actually really good. I did enjoy it. It was very much my style of horror movie, which you guys are starting to learn is like slow burn.
The worst.
Slow burn that goes bananas at the end. So it's a lot of like tension and building, and then at the end it's like full witch death madness.
I'm not opposed to that.
And I had a good time. I think Austin might enjoy it. Jackie will hate it.
Yeah, classic. I feel like any movie Jen sees, you can just assume I'm gonna hate it.
Wow.
Straight up.
Wow.
I think I came up with an answer for you.
Yes.
I think my favorite one that I watched was probably Poltergeist. A classic.
Never seen it.
I hadn't seen it either. I knew it was something that I needed to see, so I used it as I forget what day of the month it was, but it was 80s horror, so I opted for Poltergeist. It was just really enjoyable. It's scary. I can definitely see, especially if you see it when you're younger, I can imagine it being very scary and traumatizing, but it was just really good. I liked all the characters. I liked the scares. It held up really, really well. That was really fun. I also really enjoyed, not because it was a good movie, but just because it was such a movie of the time, I thoroughly enjoyed The Faculty. I think it was such a great cast, so 90s, so wonderfully 90s. So that was a fun time. I watched some other good ones. Rosemary's Baby was in there. The only one that I didn't like of the ones that I watched was VHS, which I'm sure will make a reappearance at some point on this podcast because we're friends with Jen.
Yeah, can I just say that Austin, when she was making her list of horror movies, she sent it to me and was like, do you have suggestions? And I gave her a bunch of suggestions.
I used none of them.
VHS was one of them. She watched it, did not finish it, and then erased the rest of my suggestions.
And list deleted.
But anyway, yeah, I do like VHS, but I prefer the sequel. I've told you this before. I like VHS 2 better, so.
Okay.
We will maybe see that in the future one day. Definitely in the future one day.
Damn it.
Have you guys seen Poltergeist or Rosemary's Baby or any? I mean, Rosemary's Baby is kind of a
you're
classic.
asking this question to Jackie.
Yeah.
I assumed it just to open up discussion to the room.
I've seen none of what you said. Any of those movies that you mentioned. And also none of the movies you mentioned. So.
I've seen both of them, of course.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of VHS. And I think it's hilarious because people nowadays are probably like all the young kids are like, what's a VHS? They don't even understand this movie.
I I was watching one of the cast interviews with the cast of The Haunting of Bly Manor, other press interviews that they're doing. One of them was Oliver Jackson Cohen. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of them was with Oliver Jackson Cohen and the young boy that plays Miles on Bly Manor. He's like 11 or 12. He's a fantastic actor. He was fantastic in that show, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But they were doing one of those like, what's this crazy contraption from the 90s? Like trying to guess. It was basically just like make Oliver Jackson Cohen feel old, you know, that fun game. But one of them was a VHS tape, and he was so confident. I think his name's Benjamin. He was so confident. He was like, "Oh, I know what that is. I know what that is. It's a speaker." And he was so confident. And so that was sad.
So much. Get fucked, whoever you are.
Oh no.
How dare you be 10?
How dare you?
So shout out to VHS tapes.
In terms of movies, I've never seen one this month. So I can't contribute. I tend to not watch a lot of movies. I tend to watch TV shows that I've already seen so that I may do a puzzle or look at my phone while they play in the background. So I like thinking back on it, I didn't watch a single movie this month.
Aside from the ones we forced you to watch.
Aside from the ones I feel like really victimized and forced to watch.
Yeah, October was a rough month for you.
It really was. I was thinking about that, where I'm like, should I have been nice to Jackie in November and picked a
Why
good
change your
movie?
usual style?
Yeah, exactly.
Just be me.
I'm like, no, I'm just going to continue to pick the horror movies I like, and one day I will pick an action movie I like, and you will be happy.
Someday.
And Austin will hate me.
Yeah.
I just wish I could contribute to this part of our mini-sode, but I cannot.
Well,
Let's skip me.
let's move on to Jen.
So I'm going to tell you guys some of the horrible movies I watched this month.
Okay.
Because as someone who watches a lot of horror movies, I also sometimes just really want to watch a bad one. Do you guys ever have that where it's like an itch that needs scratched of just like a dumb, campy, bad time?
Sometimes, but it's usually with movies that I've seen before. I don't often seek out new bad campy movies.
And also, I never believe any of the movies I love are bad. I.e. Battle Los Angeles. But yes, I feel a strong desire to watch them a lot of the time. But only because I'm like, oh, that was such a good movie. I should watch that 6 more times in one day.
Well, I was seeking out some sort of just cheesy, bad horror movies, and I watched 2 that were recent releases. The first was Truth or Dare, which came out a couple years ago.
Oh,
It's on
yeah.
Netflix now. Is anyone familiar?
Are they like in ball gowns? Or that's hide and seek. Sorry, never mind.
That's Ready or Not.
Sure. I'm showing my very informed opinions.
And also Ready or Not is amazing. But anyway, Truth or Dare, it's like a bunch of teenagers on spring break go to Mexico and they play...
Lucy Hale.
Yes, they
She's cool.
play Truth or Dare in like an abandoned church, and then that somehow awakens a demon that like haunts them and then makes them play this weird mystical game of Truth or Dare where if they don't complete the dare, they die, but also it dares them to do things like kill people. Really bad. I had a great time with it. And then I watched a second really bad horror movie, and this one was like, Truth or Dare was like dumb fun bad. This other one kind of pushed the boundaries and towards not as enjoyable. And it was Fantasy Island, which also had Lucy Hale in it.
Oh, she's cool.
So I guess she's doing horror movies now, but it was not as fun.
Sorry, was it like based on the Professor, Ginger, all that? Ew.
It was based on the old TV show Fantasy Island, which I never watched, but apparently it's like there's an island with like a hotel where like fantasy dreams can come true or something.
That is not what Fantasy Island's about.
Okay, well that is what the movie is about.
You just said the Professor and Ginger. Isn't that Gilligan's Island?
Yes. What are we talking about?
Fantasy Island.
I'm
Okay.
like, that's not what Gilligan's Island is about. Okay. Never mind. What do I know about movies? Nothing.
What do you know about classic TV shows? Apparently also nothing.
You agreed with me when I said that, so.
I know, you just breezed past that. I was like, wait a minute.
I will say I've never seen either of those shows, so...
Okay, so Fantasy Island, continue.
Anyway, Fantasy Island, there's like a hotel where like people, like their dreams come true. They can live out their fantasies. So I'm like, okay, that is a decent premise to be adapted into a horror scenario. If it's like whatever your wildest dreams are can come true, there's ways that could turn.
Then it gets all
very
twisty.
quickly.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed kind of that aspect of it, but I think they spent so much time on like the interpersonal drama of each character and their fantasy. Like one was a woman who wanted to go back in time to like say yes to when her boyfriend proposes so that they get married and have babies. And so then there was a lot of stuff about that, of her being like, do I deserve this second chance with this man? Another one was like a guy who was like, oh, my fantasy is to play war because I want to pretend to be a soldier, which is, first of all, dumb as fuck as is.
Seriously.
But then also it turns out that his dad was a soldier who died when he was a kid, so he, of course, gets dropped into a combat area, like, in the past with his dad when his dad was still alive. And so then there's a lot of drama there about, like, him and his father and all this stuff. And then the whole, horror premise of the movie basically is that one person brought them all there to kill them.
Shocking.
Yeah. But I'm like, I spent an hour having to have each of them kind of deal with their inner conflict of should I or should I not have this fantasy? And I'm like, can we get to the murder?
But, like, they all deal with their past, get to a healthier place, and then they get murdered?
Kind of.
That's awful. It's like, finally, I've reached enlightenment. Oh, my head has been chopped off. Good day.
There was just, especially
Just
with
kill
the
them.
soldier stuff with the dad, I was like, I don't care about this. This is so much. And then
Yeah.
there was, like, another guy whose fantasy was that he was in some rich house and, like, a cartel came to murder them and then the soldiers came to rescue them. And I'm like, this is, like, a whole separate movie.
Kind of sounds like a great movie. I'm into this movie.
But I don't need this part of it. It just really, like, dragged for me. And then the end, like, twist. I'm going to spoil this movie if anyone hasn't seen it.
Spoiler.
Limbo.
No, it's a literal island. This is all
no.
really happening. But, like, Lucy Hale's character was like, oh, I'm here to... My fantasy is to get revenge on my high school bully.
Oh, this is
like,
the scene I've seen.
Lame.
Like, grow up.
Right.
But then the twist reveal is that actually she wanted to get revenge on all of them. So her fantasy was to bring them all here so she could murder them all.
So she wins.
No.
Oh, she dies also?
Yeah, they defeat her.
So who... Oh, okay. So some people die, but most of them survive to kill Lucy Hale.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I want Lucy Hale to win.
But, like, yeah.
It sounds really convoluted.
It really is. They
Yeah.
were doing way too much. And I was like, you guys could have just kept this nice and simple.
Yeah, because it seems like a fairly promising premise.
Yeah.
I would prefer it if it was like Satan toying with them. I'd rather not be human motivations, just an external ghoulish motivation that wants them all to die.
But even if it was, like, human, like, if it really was Lucy Hale being like, I'm a psychopath and I want to murder a bunch of strangers, sure. I'll take that.
Sort of, but then the logic comes into it. How is she controlling this island?
She's not controlling the island. The island is still magical.
But
It's
her
magic.
idea was to bring them all there to kill them all.
But she didn't realize that.
No.
Is that right? No, she does?
Go in with the intention to kill them. That was just happened to be her fantasy.
No. Her fantasy was that she wanted to kill these people, and the island makes your fantasy happen. So then the island contacted all those people and brought
Oh,
them
I thought it was
like-
going to be like an under this. Oh, I didn't realize this was what I truly wanted. But no,
So
it's
How does
like-
she hear about this island?
I don't know. They don't really
And
say.
also, how does the island contact them? It's like
There's a
typing
guy.
an email. It's like, hello, come to this island,
See,
please.
it's so fucking convoluted. But there's a guy who, like...
is this movie like
runs-
6 hours long?
It felt it. There's a guy who, like, runs the hotel on the island.
So
and
he's the devil.
No. The island has, like, magic powers.
I hate this island.
I know. And
Jen's face right now.
he wants to bring his dead wife back to life.
Ay.
And the deal he was given was that his dead wife can be alive with him on the island, but he has to stay and do the island's bidding.
So the island is the devil.
Yeah, the island is just magic, and it
But
does...
it's controlled by wish fulfillment.
Yep.
It feels really, like, not in line with what Satan does, which is just do whatever the fuck he wants.
It's not a great movie.
Okay.
Don't recommend. If you're in the mood for a bad, campy, teen horror kind of thing, I'll say go Truth or Dare, not Fantasy Island.
If it makes you feel better, I did fall asleep the other night listening to The Flophouse, which is a fantastic podcast. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, that I fell asleep because of them, but I fell asleep to their episode on Fantasy Island within like 20 minutes, which is like a record. So, but they're fantastic. That's an endorsement of The Flophouse.
This is a shout out, actually, to how great they are.
Yeah.
You're
Not that you made
so
me fall
good,
asleep.
I fell asleep.
I mean, I intentionally listened to it to fall asleep. It was just like record timing. Usually I end up listening to an entire
I
episode.
always have something playing when I fall
Right?
asleep, too. Usually it's Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Shout out to
Yeah.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Should we move on to some like TV shows then? And are you?
Sure, let's first talk about what we're drinking tonight.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to hear that.
I am trying a new cider today. So as you guys know, I don't like beer, so I'm a big cider fan. Usually buy a couple of my favorites, either Okanagan, which is a Canadian, British Columbia.
It's really cute how you say that.
Okanagan?
It's a beautiful pronunciation.
I'm not from there.
I don't think how I say it is probably correct either. I say Okanagan.
I thought it was Okanagan.
Okanagan. You're probably right.
Everyone from British Columbia, please let us know.
It just sounds nicer when you say it.
Austin looked at me with panic, and I was like, I don't know.
So please let us know in the comments. Write us a comment. We don't have comments. I'm not a YouTube video. This is also Cider number 4 right now. Hi, Dad. Anyways, so I usually buy a couple of my favorites, either that one or Brickworks. So right now I am drinking a new cider. I've never had it before, but it's very tasty. It is from Coffin Ridge. It's called Forbidden. It's a dry cider. It's an Ontario cider. It's very, very good. It's it's pretty close to the Brickworks 1904 that we like a lot, so it's pretty tasty.
Nice.
Yeah, usually I've been striking out lately on my grab a random cider based on the cover. I've been striking out lately, so.
I do love that you do that without any hesitation. You're like, I'm gonna grab this one and that one and just try them.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
I'm gonna stick to the ones I like.
I mean, but I buy a couple of the ones that I know that I like, and then I'll buy one different one. And this is a hit. This might be added to my regular pile.
Nice.
Yeah,
I do that a lot with craft beer. I'll get the ones I like, and then I'll get a couple weird ones. And I had one a little while ago that was so fucking good, but it was a special Oktoberfest one, so it was seasonal, and I can't get it anymore, and I'm very mad.
nice.
Yeah. But I'm drinking I am boring. I'm drinking a beer. This is Mill Street Organic. This is kind of my go-to beer. When I want something, I just grab this. They are a Toronto brewery. They have a brew pub downtown that I've been to pre-COVID that's very nice, and I miss going to things and doing things. So I will just drink this beer here in my apartment and pretend I'm downtown.
Classic.
Jackie.
I'm drinking beer as well. I brought a couple Amsterdam blonde lagers. I did an order not too long ago and got 52 beers for a low price with free delivery from Amsterdam Brewery. I love them. They also have a terrific patio right on the lake that I've been a couple times. Whenever anyone visits me in Toronto, we go there. I really have a soft spot for them. So I've been drinking their beer. And then when my mom visited, we bought some Smirnoff Ice. She did not stay long enough to drink any of it, so she left it in my fridge. And I decided to revisit my high school days and start chugging the Smirnoff Ice. So... cheers.
There it is.
That's what I'm on right now, and I think I'm gonna love it.
Reclaim your high school days.
Tastes like a hangover. Okay, now that we've covered alcohol. TV.
You've been watching TV, Jackie.
I've been watching TV, but again, like I mentioned, I don't know if it's a personality defect or if it's COVID times, but I can't focus on anything exclusively. So I'm always doing kakuru puzzles.
Which are
Sudoku, but with math. Just look it up.
Is Sudoku already math? It's all numbers.
It's just, you could replace anything like shapes into the numbers of Sudoku, and it's just about keeping one of each in a line, right? So it's not like anything to do with math, but in kakuru you have to add up to make certain... Okay, I'm losing everybody. Just look up Kakuru Puzzle if you have any interest. I'm obsessed with them. I love them. I have multiple books of puzzles. So I'm always doing those while I'm watching or listening to television. Either that or I'm on my phone. I can't remember the last time I've actually looked at the television while stuff has been playing on it. So in that vein, I only rewatch television shows I've seen 100 times. So I just finished watching all of Friends.
Classic.
All 10 seasons.
Magical.
It's amazing and magical, but there are some real problems.
Yeah,
is there some problems?
We don't have enough time.
We don't have enough time to go into the problems. It's a product of the era. Early 2000s, they were not woke. And so we just gotta skip past that.
Yeah.
Some of the jokes still work. And I've just recently restarted Schitt's Creek. I had watched seasons 1 through 5 already. I know season 6 just became on Netflix.
Yes. Oh, I just finished Schitt's Creek actually a couple days ago.
I can't bring myself to do it.
I know.
Done with it.
We held off watching the last 2 episodes for because I know the last season just came on Netflix, but it's been on the CBC app gem for forever. And so we like watched all of it and we held off the last 2 for like 2 or 3 months. We just couldn't bring ourselves to finish it.
I'm trying to start. The first season's hit or miss, so I'm kind of starting at the second season when I know that I love what they do, and I'm going to try and watch it all the way through. But it hurts me to think of how emotional I will feel about season 6.
Can we make a road trip up to the motel? It's close to us.
Yes. But I only want to do it if David's going to be there. And the other thing I'm watching is Baroness von Sketch Show, which is the funniest thing ever. It's those ladies in Toronto doing sketch shows. And I'm like, I think if they knew me, we would be friends. So this is my shout out to Baroness von Sketch Show.
Have you watched the Canadian... what's the Great Canadian Baking Championship?
I hate cooking and
I know you do, but hear me out, because 2 of the women from the Baroness von Sketch Show are the hosts of it.
Like, I love that, but they're not doing sketches, so I have no interest.
I'm just saying, might be a way into your love of baking programming, because I know that you're not crazy about it.
I honestly hate it. It's like torture. I don't understand people who watch, like, the Great British Bakery or...
The Great Canadian Bake Off, that's what it is, right?
Guess what show I was going to be mentioning?
You know what? That's the beauty of this. We have our own taste, but I would rather get nails in my eyes than watch a cooking show.
Okay, hold on.
Season of Great British Bake Off, people. It's airing right now. Do you think I'm not watching it every week?
I feel like you are, judging by your passion.
It's very good. Anyway, continue.
Who else has watched television recently?
I was just going to say, before Jackie started ragging on baking shows, but I've watched 2 shows, basically. My 2 different modes. One is horror, so I watched The Haunting of Bly Manor, and the other is, like, feel-good British television, so I watched The Great British Bake Off. Legit. The new season is great.
It's so soothing.
It's one giant part.
It's really not. You can't say that. You haven't watched it.
I will say, have you watched this recent season?
I haven't. I actually haven't watched a ton of the Great British Bake Off. I tend to watch it a lot when I'm at home because my parents always have the Food Network on, and so it tends to be on. And I do love baking. I'm not crazy about cooking shows.
Yeah,
But baking shows, I don't even like baking. I don't like half of the food that they make. Like, I don't like chocolate. That doesn't bode well for baking shows.
So what do you like about it?
It's just soothing, and it's impressive. Like, British Bake Off is a little bit different because it's not like they're making these, like, enormous cake sculptures. I'm also usually home during the holidays, so it's like Halloween Bake Off, and they're doing, like, these giant Halloween cakes. Like, there was one I was watching while I was home back in September, and it was a giant, like, Freddy Krueger cake. It was amazing. Or, like, over Christmas, it's, like, the gingerbread show competitions. Like, those ones I really like.
Die Hard cake?
Probably.
Probably.
But yeah, there were a lot of really cool cakes around the holidays and stuff, so I like those ones a lot more. Anyway.
No, I was just going to say in the new season they switched one of the hosts because
Here we go.
Followed,
cake drama.
Sorry, if you followed any of the Great British Bake Off drama from a few years ago when they switched networks, the 2 hosts and one of the judges left, and Paul Hollywood was the only judge that remained.
We're just gonna plow past that name, Paul Hollywood.
Yeah, his name's Paul Hollywood. Have you not seen the show, Austin? He's
Hollywood.
one of the judges.
I've seen it like once.
Okay. Well, the 2 original judges were Paul Hollywood and Mary Berry, but Mary Berry left.
Okay, sorry. Is this gonna be a comedy show?
No. I promise I'm not making this up.
These sound like 100% Bob's Burgers character names, but alright.
But they were the judges, and there was 2 hosts, Mel and Sue, and then Mel, Sue, and Mary Berry all left. They're laughing at me. To all of our British listeners who are like, yeah, she's just talking about that thing that happened a few years ago.
All of our British listeners.
None of this sounds real.
Are like,
just say like,
British
Parker Bowles was a judge and she left in disgrace.
Stop! But anyway, then they got a new replacement host for Mary Berry, and then the 2 new hosts. And then one of them was Sandy Toxvig, who's also the new host of QI. So
why have we never known this about you?
And then Sandy left, and now there's a new host. I forget his name. It's Matt something. And the other host is Noel Fielding, who I love, who's from the Mighty Boosh.
Still talking about it.
I'm just gonna ignore you guys and keep going. I've seen Noel Fielding do stand-up in Toronto. He's fantastic. But anyway, the new host, Matt, I forget his last name. He's the bald comedian guy, but he's got a very wacky style, and so does Noel, so I feel like it's too wacky. Whereas Sandy from QI, she really kind of like brought things down a lot and made it a little more balanced. Anyway, that was Jen's British television corner.
God.
Will any of this make it to air? No. Are you okay, Austin?
Austin is out of frame. Austin is dying.
Austin has, like, fallen over
I
me?
just feel like Jen spoke another language for like 5 minutes there. And it didn't make any sense.
In other British television news,
She just said so many
I
names.
know, she's like very passionate about it.
I also was rewatching old seasons of Taskmaster. Anyway,
What's that? Is that
another
like
British show.
about like nannies or like maids or something?
It is. I don't even know how to begin to explain
I don't even
it.
think I want you to explain.
Yeah, you guys
crying.
couldn't even listen to me talk about Bake Off.
And I like Bake Off. I don't know what just happened.
I was just describing the people from Bake Off.
But that was like a lot of like behind the scenes politics that I don't understand.
It was like the hosts changing.
But their names are all like some Biggie Muffins.
Okay. Whew.
Jen, thank you for your
Thank you for sharing.
in-depth analysis of hosts
I'm
of
never
Bake Off.
talking again.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're back.
we're back in. We're in it. Good luck, whoever has to edit that.
That would be me. We're still recording, right?
Yeah.
Everything is good?
I
Okay.
hope you hear a thud from when you fall over in laughter.
Okay. Whew.
Okay.
So, Austin, what have you been watching?
Wow, Jen, you said that so sincerely. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
I
asking.
You're interested.
You guys just made fun of me. So.
Just made fun of how stupid you are.
Austin, can we cut Jackie from the podcast?
Forever. Goodbye.
delete her track.
And
from
she
every
just
episode.
chugs her Smirnoff Ice.
Smirnoff Ice.
I've been watching... I haven't been watching a ton of TV. I've just finished The Haunting of Bly Manor, which we should discuss because I thought it was wonderful. We won't do like super spoilers on it because it's still pretty new, but did you like this season? How did it compare to Hill House for you?
So, I had heard a couple things, not spoilery things, but before I started it, I heard that it wasn't going to be as scary as Hill House.
Yeah.
And then I also heard from people on Twitter that a lot of the accents were terrible. So then I started watching it, and I was like, they are correct. These accents are not good. And also...
Which is confusing because most of them are British.
But they're not using their actual accent.
Well, yeah, Oliver Jackson Cohen. Once again, love him. Dreamboat.
I also love him. He's doing a god-awful Scottish accent.
It took me a while to figure out it was a Scottish accent.
It's not good. And then also the narrator, I believe she's an American actress.
It's Carla... Oh, is that a spoiler? It's Carla Gugino.
That's not a spoiler. She's the narrator.
She's in the first episode. She's in the first episode.
Yeah. Her accent is abysmal. It's all over the place. She can't pick a region that she's from. And then, spoiler alert, at the end when you find out which character she's supposed to be, and I'm like, that accent was not that accent.
Yeah, it's fair.
You were fucking... What were you doing?
The accents didn't bother me as much as I expected them to, and everyone kept complaining to me about the accents, but they didn't bother, like Oliver Jackson Cohen, whatever his name was, or Peter Quint, his accent didn't, it was bad. It was, and I knew he was British, so it's like, what is he aiming for here? His American accent was a lot better in Hill House than his Scottish accent was here, but it was, I don't know, I kind of got over it, and it didn't bother me too much. I thought it was really good, though. I thought it was really beautifully shot. It wasn't scary. I think, Jackie, you might well, I don't know if you would like it, but you wouldn't be scared by it.
I'm in.
Yeah, it's,
Guarantee that I will not be scared.
No,
I can't guarantee. There's scary stuff. There's, like, spooky stuff in it.
there
But, like,
are ghosts.
You said Haunting of Hill House, right?
Haunting of Hill House is a
Hill House
lot
is
scarier.
What's the one with Catherine Zeta-Jones? House on Haunted Hill?
That's another one.
Haunted-
Oh, I watched House on Haunted Hill this month as well. I watched the original. It's not that one.
What's the one with Catherine Zeta-Jones?
The Haunting?
The Haunting, yeah.
Is that the same?
It is based on...
Sorry, we're saying the same thing.
It's based on the book, The Haunting of Hill House.
Okay, so is it as scary as The Haunting?
I haven't seen it.
The TV show?
No, the Catherine Zeta-Jones movie.
Is Hill House as scary as The Haunting, the movie?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Are you asking?
That's what she's asking.
Season The Haunting of Hill House is as scary as the movie The
No,
Haunting?
I'm asking if Bly Manor is as
okay.
scary as The Haunting. Because I'm fine with The Haunting. But I
It's-
didn't find that too scary.
Yeah, it's less scary. There's not really a lot of, like, jump scares. Like, there's ghosts, but they're more, like, characters, almost. It's more like, there's a house, there are ghosts in it.
There's a few jump scares. There's a few moments where I was definitely hiding in my shirt a little bit, but there's nothing stick with you scary, because he does such a good job of making you understand who all the ghosts are and why they're there. So they're scary on your first watch, and then you kind of think back, and it makes it was the same with Hill House, where there's some scary stuff, but once you kind of know how it all fits in, it kind of erases the scariness factor because you understand where it's coming from. And it's really like Bly Manor, I think, suffered from poor marketing, in the sense of when I saw the trailer for it, I thought it was going to be like shit my pants scary. Like, it looked terrifying from the trailer. It's not. It has scary moments for sure. There's definitely some disturbing stuff and like things like kind of real life horror kind of tags along in it. But the ghosts themselves aren't terribly scary, and I'm not great with horror, and I feel like I didn't have to turn away too much from this one. So I'd recommend it. Give it a try. There's some episodes that are a lot better than others.
How many episodes are in it?
9.
Okay. I feel like I'm gonna want to watch something relatively scary around Halloween.
I'd recommend Bly Manor because it's not horribly scary. It's beautiful, I think.
I feel like I want to watch The Walking Dead again.
Well, okay.
But I don't know.
I'm just recommending this to you as a potential. I don't know if you'd like it. There's some episodes that aren't fantastic.
I mentioned too that I have a hard time now watching something without something else going on.
Yeah, I do
It's
too.
hard to watch new things.
I do too, yeah.
I will say it took me a little while to decide if I liked Bly Manor. Like, the first few episodes, I was really just like, where are you going? Like, I'm watching it. Some of the characters I enjoyed, some I didn't, but I felt like it wasn't until really the last, like, 3 or 4 episodes where I was like, okay, I know what's kind of happening. I'm on board now. The first half, I was really just like, I'm meeting characters, and I'm not sure what the point of anything is.
Yeah. It's funny to me, too, because I actually, just while we're on the topic, the 8th episode that's in black and white.
Loved it.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
I loved the contents of it, but I almost wonder if it would have been more effective if it had been kind of split up and placed in smaller segments throughout the season, because it did lose momentum for me.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, I kind of felt almost the opposite. I guess in the sense because that is kind of breaking up the action of the episode before and the episode after.
Well, and it ends on, like, the episode before, it ends on such a... It is a jump scare and such a cliffhanger, and then you kind of see that scene happen like 3 or 4 more times before you actually figure out what happens after.
I think they shouldn't have done the repeat of it in the black and white episode, because like they think that episode leaving off that, and then they go back into the back of the story. I think they should have just started in the other episode, and you would have been like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then the last one picks up where you left off. Like, that's how I would have structured it, but I liked that episode. I liked
it too. I liked it too. Yeah.
And having the sort of history, and again, like, it did kind of explain things I didn't even think were going to be explained. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I'd forgotten about, like, the little kid. I'm like, who the fuck was he?
Yeah, I paced myself a lot more with this one than I did with Hill House. I was watching certain episodes with a friend over Zoom, so I didn't binge it. And so, yeah, I definitely had forgotten little elements here and there. It was good. And then it inspired me to rewatch Hill House. So I watched 3 episodes today instead of being productive. I watched like 3 hours worth of The Haunting of Hill House. And it's the same thing. It's not as scary on the second rewatch because you know what all the ghosts are, and it's like, oh, it's a little bit more touching.
The only part in Hill House that actually kind of like, not necessarily scared me, but then I was like, fuck, this would scare me if I was like this person in the situation, was when little baby Luke is in like the dumbwaiter that goes to
I just watched that episode today, yeah. Little baby Luke. Where do they find these actors? Honestly, all the kid actors in both of these shows are wonderful. They're so good. And I love, like, in Hill House, sorry, we're off on such a tangent on shows Jackie hasn't watched, so she's just, like, not listening. Sorry. She's got her Smirnoff Ice. She's fine.
Enjoy your Smirnoff Ice. But, like, little baby Luke I loved, and then, like, grown-up Luke I loved so much. Like, I loved that character. Yeah. I was, like, so feeling for him. Yeah. So then when it's the same Oliver Jackson Cohen who's in Bly Manor, where he's, like, Peter Quint, who's kind of a dick for a lot of it, and I was like, do you have to? Can you not be sweet baby Luke again? Where's my gentle little recovering addict Luke? I loved him so much. Yeah, all the characters are so good. Anyway, so highly recommend both of them, but I would start with Bly Manor for you, Jackie, if you do decide to watch it, because it's not as scary as Hill House. But I do. Is Hill House another TV show? It's an anthology series. It's like the Haunting of, and the first season, was it 2 years ago, 2018 that it came out? Yeah. Was The Haunting of Hill House. And then this year, they just released The Haunting of Bly Manor. So it's a lot of the same cast. It's Mike Flanagan, who's a very famous horror director, writer. Never heard the name before. Yeah, listen to her name-dropping horror director. I know, I love you. I've seen a few of his movies. Proud mommy, you're like, thank you. Mike Flanagan. Flanagan. He's a really famous director in the sense that I've heard of him.
I've even seen some of his movies. No big deal. But anyway, I would recommend starting with Bly Manor for you as a horror-averse person.
Okay, because that's a straight up accurate characterization of me. Averse.
It's I described Hill House as This Is Us with ghosts.
Okay.
It's like a family drama a little bit.
That's the Mandy Moore television.
Yeah, which if you've ever watched it,
We'll never.
I think it's impossible to get through an episode without sobbing.
Well, first of all,
fat
you want
tears.
to cry, and second of all, why do you want to watch a television show about some boring family?
I haven't watched the most recent season. Anyway, Hill House, This Is Us with ghosts.
Okay, so I'll watch Bly Manor first, theoretically.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Like I said, I have a hard time starting new things. I feel like I can't commit to anything right now. Well, ever. Not even just right now, it's just ever. I'm the last thing I've been fully engaged in was The Impossible in 2010. That's the last thing I remember focusing 100% of my attention on. Ever since then, I'm just you're not keeping me.
Yeah.
So.
It's hard, especially with cell phones. I always have to be doing something now. Yeah. It's bad.
But I know a lot of people say they don't watch movies, they watch TV more, but I always find the reason I'm a movie person and not a TV person is because I don't have the time to invest hours of my life into a TV show, season after season. So I'm if I watch a movie, I'm sitting down, I'm looking at the screen, it's an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Done. I can do that. And then there's all these TV shows that people watch and they're oh, I binged 8 seasons last week. And I'm how do you have the time? I can't do it.
I understand. I agree. My brain works in the way of I scrolled through Netflix. I see all these movies I really want to watch. I'm oh, I should see that. I should watch that. And then I keep scrolling. And then I end up back on Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Friends or The Office.
Young girl.
Because I'm oh, well, I can't, I don't know if I have the time to sit down and watch these movies.
Then you watch 10 episodes.
And then suddenly 6 hours have gone by. And I could have watched 3 movies in this time. But instead I've just watched a season of The Office. It doesn't make sense. And I hate it. So anyway, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do that challenge. The horror movie challenge. Not so much the horror movie aspect of it, but just the watching more movies more regularly. That's why I'm also really enjoying doing this podcast, is just watching movies. Because I like movies. Obviously, I like movies, but I just I'm not good at sitting down and watching them on my own volition anymore.
This has definitely made me watch movies I would never watch otherwise. I'll give that a big plus. But it's hard for me. I have the whole weekend off work and I'm oh my god, I have so much time. And then it ends up being 8 p.m. on Sunday. I'm fuck, I gotta watch that movie for the podcast. And it becomes such a stressful moment. But that being said, I always I get something from every movie.
It's a net positive.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's always something. Even though I'm writing notes and I'm Austin is gonna hate when I say this, or Jen is gonna beat me about the face. But it's still fun.
Ever?
Intellectually, you have.
Okay.
You don't like well, none of us like what I have to say, even myself included, but it's making me watch things I never would otherwise. And that's always good, right?
Yeah.
Your comfort zone is always working against you, so you should try new things.
And sometimes, I think, for myself anyway, I've watched a movie you guys have recommended that I have liked, like Apollo 13. And then other times I have watched a movie that you recommend that I hate.
Pitch Perfect.
You knew it! You knew it was
Annie!
Anyway.
So,
what else?
Books.
Movies, books, okay.
Some books. What are you guys reading?
So, in terms of books, I'm sorry, but I don't remember any authors. The last 3 books...
That's what Google is for.
Yes, Google... I was going to say Google will Austin it for us. What I meant was Austin will Google it for us. The last 3 books I read one was called Good Girls Lie. That was a really good one. It's a thriller set in a girls' school, an academy for women, young girls, and it's very prestigious, and there's, murder and intrigue and secret societies and drama.
That does sound interesting.
That is
It's quite good, although that one I saw the twist coming a mile away.
That one is by J.T. Ellison.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I recommend it. It's good. It's one of those quick thrillers. The genre of choice lately has been easy to digest, beach read thrillers essentially. But I enjoyed that one. But it was one of the ones that you just know what's going to come, so there's no big surprise. I also read a book called When I Was You by Amber Garza. That was pretty good. It's the suburban thriller, which is also a huge genre lately. Ooh, everyone's life looks perfect on the outside, but actually has secrets underneath. That one I also saw the twist coming really quickly, but I think it was a little bit more involved. It was a little bit more with the narration and the way it was written. It was a little bit more surprising when stuff happened. So I would recommend that one. Again, quick read. And the last one I got from the library. Shout out to Toronto Public Library.
Yeah.
We love the library on this podcast.
It has saved our butt so many times.
Absolutely love it. Especially since my library is directly beside a Kohl's bookstore, and I'm always like, F you, moneymaker, I'm going to the library.
My library is right beside my laundromat, so every time I go and do my laundry, it's like, guess I gotta go to the library, kill some time. I don't know what else to do.
Oh well. The third one I read was called Salvaged. I'm not sure who that was by. Somebody, Giroux? Madeline Giroux, perhaps?
Madeline Roux. R-O-U-X.
That was a sci-fi, aliens-esque novel about salvage workers and a mind-controlling fungus that takes over some ships. And
I'm into that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's like a YA novel more.
Okay.
And it's about the salvager who ends up on a ship where the fungus is taking over, and the crew is like half taken over by the fungus, and she's trying to keep herself separate from the fungus, and at the same time, like, some of the crew has been rendered like murderous, and some are still trying to fight the fungus, and she's trying to find her allies and how she's going to beat the fungus. Anyway, it's pretty good. I would recommend that one, although it dragged a lot in the middle. But it's like aliens versus... It's aliens, but with a more young woman coming into her own power type story, which I enjoyed.
Okay.
Like, Ripley was like a strong woman already. This woman has to recognize her power and get past some personal drama. So I'd recommend that one too. And then on top of that, I just want to recommend Solutions and Other Problems by Ali Brosh.
Yes!
Which is just amazing. She's so great. She did Hyperbole and a Half. She had that website. She does really hilarious comics, and they're very relatable. And it's just a joy from start to finish. I've only gotten through a couple pages because I'm like savoring it.
Same.
I don't want to rush through it. It's a big, thick-ass book. It's like 1,000 pages.
I know.
It's huge, but I have to pace myself because I love her so much.
Same, and she hasn't really had new content since like 2013, I think, so it's just exciting.
But everyone should buy it and support her. And even if you go into the bookstore and open it up and read one page, you'll be like, oh yeah, this is what I want. I'm going to buy this. It's great.
Yeah.
So I think everyone should get it.
She has a blog. It's Hyperbole and a Half.
Yeah, and that was the title of her first novel.
It was the title of her first novel, and that's the name of her blog. It's not regularly updated anymore, but she did post a chapter from Solutions and Other Problems. If you want to get a taste of her, it's on the website.
Mm-hmm. Austin and I both bought that book.
On the same day.
Yeah, strangely. And I think we're both equally in love with it.
Yeah.
Those are the books I've read recently. A good day.
Nice. I'm currently reading a book. I'm going to get my phone so I can check the author and the full title because I'm not sure if I remember it.
Just really quickly, I just started a book today called 9 Perfect Strangers, which is by the author, I believe, of Big Little Lies, and it's also going to be made into a television show.
Okay.
I've only read the first 3 or 4 chapters, but it's pretty great already, so I can't really say much more about it, but if anyone's interested in my current read, 9 Perfect Strangers by Leanne Moriarty, I believe. Nice.
So, in a completely different note, the book I'm currently reading is called Say Nothing, A True Story of Murder and Memory in Northern Ireland by Patrick Radden Keefe. I'm fucking obsessed. So, it is about a true story, obviously, that takes place in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. So, the book is also kind of giving you the history of the Troubles from, the late 60s, the 70s, 80s, 90s, into the early 2000s. And so you're following different people in the IRA mostly. There's some people working in the British Army. And then also at the same time, there is a woman who was the mother, a single mother, a widow of 10 kids who had been disappeared during the Troubles, which would happen sometimes. People would just be taken away from their homes and you would never know what happened. And the kids were split up and they grew up in foster care and they never found out what happened to their mother. And then, in the 2000s, sort of after the Good Friday Agreement and the ceasefire, some people from the University of Boston, I believe it is, started doing a information gathering series where they were sitting down and interviewing former members of the IRA and people in the Troubles to kind of have an oral history of what had happened because there wasn't a lot of official documentation of what people were actually doing. And so then, I haven't finished it yet. I've got a couple chapters left. So basically what's going to happen is that through this coming out, like 30 years later, is you're going to kind of get the story of what really happened to this woman who was disappeared. And like, it's intense. It's such a fascinating read. I'm so into it. Like, even just the historical parts where he's going through like the planning of different bombings and the players who were involved. I'm so into it. So highly recommend this book.
Awesome.
Highly.
Seriously, gotta write this down. This sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's so good.
If only there was a way that this would be documented forever.
If I had a phone, I could write it down and said I will rely on Austin's editing skills. Please highlight this for me, thank you.
And I will say, because I'm very cool, I actually own it. It's up there on my shelf. It is their paperback copy, but I am listening to the audiobook so that I can hear the accents.
Aww.
That is hot.
Yeah.
So you've read it and now you're listening to it, or?
No, I'm listening to it. But I bought it because I planned to read it, and
Nice.
then I was like, I'm going to listen to it on audio so I can work on a puzzle and listen to it.
Nice.
That is honestly my Saturday every day.
Yeah.
I listen to something, an audiobook or a podcast, and I do kakuru puzzles.
Nice. But yeah,
Austin.
really good read.
Oh, sorry.
Austin, what do you got?
I actually read books this month. I have been making it a goal to try to read more because I've realized that I have a hard time sticking with a book and that I've wasted quarantine by not reading as much as I should have. So some of them are a little bit before October, but I did go on a bit of a Stephen King kick, and I read The Shining, and then I read Dr. Sleep, and then I rewatched The Shining, and then I watched Dr. Sleep. Loved The Shining. Loved the book. Oh my gosh. So much more than the movie, to be honest. Dr. Sleep was not as scary, but still fun. Enjoyed it. Didn't love the movie. And that, although I do love Ewan McGregor, so
Yes, girl.
it's a toss-up, really. It balances out. And then I just finished reading, speaking of the Toronto Public Library, I had put a bunch of books on hold months ago, totally forgot about them, got an email that a book was on hold, went to pick it up, brought it home. Then a couple days later, got another email that another book was on hold. So I am rolling in books now. I have no recollection of putting them on hold, but this is working out fantastically. So I read The Wives by Terry Fisher. I think it's a fairly recent book. It was okay. It's about this woman who she's married to a man who has two other wives, so he's a polygamist.
Ew. Wait, does she know about it?
She does.
Okay.
And then she kind of goes on a mission to try to find the other wives. It's not like a religious, like they all live together sort of situation. It's like he's with each wife 1 or 2 days of the week kind of thing. And so she like goes on a mission to find the other wives, and it's, I don't know, things aren't quite what they seem. I'm not really selling this book. I didn't love it. I don't know that I would fully recommend it. It's okay. It picks up right at the end. It picked up.
Is it a thriller?
It's a thriller.
I think I would like a thriller.
Yeah.
But I generally hate the suburban thriller that relies on my husband is cheating.
Yeah.
My husband has a big secret.
This is pretty much what that was. It was an easy read. I wouldn't say it's bad. Like it was fine. It was an enjoyable read. But yeah, you kind of question what is or isn't real. And then speaking of not knowing what is or isn't real, I also read The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn, which was supposed to be a movie that was supposed to come out this year.
With Amy Adams, right?
Yeah, Amy Adams and Julianne Moore. It's still supposed to come out. I think it was a Fox movie, and so because they got bought out, there was all those things kind of got thrown up in the air. I think it's been sold to Netflix, so I think it's going to just be released on Netflix soon. Hopefully. It was a really good book. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Like, no spoilers.
No spoilers. It's kind of a Rear Window type deal, but with some added elements. It's quite good. I recommend it. And I'm excited for the movie. I hope it actually gets released.
Nice. I'm going to put that on my list.
Yeah.
I love reading the book before the movie.
Yeah, I can lend it to you. It's
nice.
It's good. And then I just started reading Home Before Dark, which is a horror book. Yeah.
By Riley Sager, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Cool. I have it over there out from the library.
Me too.
I have Riley Sager. It's called Lock Every Door.
I've read all of his books. This is his
So
newest
great.
one.
Yeah.
I love it. They're all like mystery thrillers, but kind of horror movie inspired. So
I was-
so up my alley.
This is
You
like
read Lock Every Door?
Yes.
And the Bartholomew?
yeah.
Should that be my next one? I have that one and one called My Lovely Wife about a husband and wife serial killer.
Ooh. Okay.
And then one, I can't remember the title of it, but it's set in like a little neighborhood in Britain. It's all about the like mysteries and secrets in the neighborhood.
That sounds good.
So maybe I'll do the Riley Sager one next if you recommend it.
I do. I recommend all of his books. So Final Girls is his first, which was my favorite.
Read that one.
Yeah, and then there's, I think it's Last Time I Lied, which is about like a summer camp, and there had been like
read that one too.
Yeah,
Nice.
And then Lock Every Door, which is in like the.
I'm gonna have to read all of these. Yeah, I just kind of picked this book blindly, so.
And so that's his newest. So like I had it sitting waiting for
that explains why it took so long for me to forget about putting it on hold.
Yeah, I was like, and so if you are the person who has it on hold at the Toronto Public Library, I'm sorry because it's overdue and I'm not bringing it back.
I have another book shout out, maybe if I could do it. I want everyone, if you're looking for a very atmospheric thriller, I've just started the Joe Nesbo series.
Okay, yeah.
Like Dark Iceland series. It's all set in Iceland. It's all thrillers and mysteries and detective police novels. Starts with one called Snowblind, I believe, which is the one I have at the library. But I've read one of Joe Nesbo's standalone novels. I love his books. They're so good and they're so perfect for winter. Especially when you're like cuddled up in a blanket and you're warm and you're reading about friggin' frigid plains. It feels great. He is a fantastic writer. Everything just flies by so quickly. You'll get so immersed without even realizing.
This is great. I'm glad we're doing this because now I don't know what to read after I finish this book. I just started it yesterday, the Home Before Dark. So it seemed very Amityville horror to me right off.
I haven't started that one yet.
It was just very much like they're a family who lived in a house for 28 days kind of thing.
Okay.
But they also reference Amityville horror. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, so far so good.
Yeah.
I've realized I like reading horror books because they do, I don't know, books don't scare me as much as movies do. So, but it's also, I have a hard time choosing fiction that I'll latch onto. But for some reason I've been having good luck with horror thrillers lately. So I'm going to stick in. Yeah, so I'm going to stick in this genre for the time being.
So I'm going to shout out an Instagram account that I also think you guys should follow. I might have mentioned this before. It is called Crime by the Book.
Ooh.
I follow her.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
She's so great. She like lives in New York and she works in the publishing industry, but then I guess she runs this as like a side thing. She just loves mystery thriller and crime books.
She's the one who turned me on to Joe Nesbo.
Yeah, I was like, when you were saying that, I'm like, I've always meant to get into Joe Nesbo because she posts about him a lot because she loves all those like Scandinavian, Nordic kind of mysteries.
Follow.
So yeah, if you're ever looking for good mystery thriller recommendations, just fucking go to her Instagram account, scroll through, watch her stories. There's so many good books there.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's really good. She even has a website with a lot of like top 20 of this genre, top 20 if this is what you're looking for. So she's a rich resource for sure. And her life is envious.
I know, because I'm like, you are living in New York, working in publishing, and then also...
Is she in a romantic comedy, or...?
Maybe.
Okay. I would
Reading
watch
crime books all the time.
Right? She's just like a romantic comedy murder mystery?
Yeah. Ooh.
She'd be in that.
Copyright. We're pitching that to Netflix.
Oh my riches galore.
So is there anything else we wanted to cover? Did we want to do, like, podcasts we've been listening to, or...
Sure. Yeah. Why not?
All right. What podcasts have you been listening to?
Oh, I thought someone else had some.
I've just been re-listening to I Hate It But I Love It. Toronto Girls.
Jocelyn, honestly, if you're listening.
Yes, we want to be your best friend. I've seen that Jocelyn and Austin have conversed on Twitter, and my jealousy is out of proportion, probably, but they're honestly so entertaining. My phone just broke, so I'm relying on my work phone. So I have no music. The only thing I have is podcasts. And I've downloaded a ton of I Hate It But I Love It. And it's honestly one of the most entertaining podcasts ever. There's been more than 10 times that I've been biking to work, and I'm laughing hysterically on my bike. People are legitimately staring at me like, what is wrong with you? Even when I'm walking my dogs, I'm just like giggling down the street. It makes me seem insane. But, like, I cannot stop laughing. They're very, very funny girls. I really, really love their podcast.
One of my favorites, for sure.
Like, Austin turned me onto it, and it's honestly, if you give it a chance, you will become obsessed. It's so good.
Yeah.
As you were saying that, I was like, oh, I'm going to tell them about this podcast episode I listened to that was so good. But then I'm like, they're going to make fun of me again. So I was listening to
I don't think I could possibly laugh harder than I was earlier.
Yeah.
So.
I cannot wait to make fun of
So it is a British podcast hosted by these two comedians. I'm going to be saying British people's names again, so.
Hello, Hollywood.
Stop it! It is hosted by two comedians, Ed Gamble and James Acaster. Love them both. I've seen James Acaster live. He's so funny. But it's a podcast about food. So the premise is that they are a dream restaurant, and the person who is their guest every week has to pick, like, their dream starter, main course, dessert, whatever, and it could be something you've eaten before, something from a restaurant that you love, something your parents made growing up, or whatever, but, like, they're all comedians, so it's funny. So they had, the guest on this episode I was listening to was Romesh Ranganathan, who's another British comedian. And I was walking home from the library listening to it, laughing out loud on the sidewalk like a psychopath, like Jackie on her bike. Mm-hmm. And I was like, people are looking at me right now, but I couldn't stop laughing. They, like, a spoiler for that episode, but at the end they realized everything he had picked was fried food, and there was just, like, silence as he was trying to deal with the fact that he picked all of these fried dishes, and he's like, what is wrong with me? And I couldn't stop laughing. So good.
Nice. What was the name of that again?
Off Menu.
All right, I'm always looking for new podcasts. I have been listening to a couple of, I don't know, I'm always looking for new ones. I started listening to 5 to 4, which is a podcast all about why the Supreme Court in the United States sucks. So that's been a depressingly good time. Yeah, 3 lawyers that kind of break down the Supreme Court decisions of certain cases.
Too real.
Too real, but also very informative. It's kind of in the vein of You're Wrong About, which I think is a podcast we all like. I don't know if you've listened to it, Jackie, but it's a really good podcast, obviously, You're Wrong About. So it's kind of in the same vein, along with American Hysteria, I've also been listening to recently. Kind of breaking down myths or propaganda, things that we've all kind of believed to be true, but are not really.
What's that one called again?
American Hysteria.
I'm gonna look that up.
It almost sounds like it should be required listening for everyone on Earth.
Yeah.
I really hate that there's so many, like, podcasts that explore critical thinking.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, I really wish every single person on Earth would be forced to listen to this and evaluate their own bias.
Yeah.
But they're so not.
That's like, I don't know if this is a full tangent, but I've always said that, like, media literacy should be taught in schools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took a course at university called Critical Thinking. Yeah. And it changed the way you hear everything that comes at you in the media.
Yeah, because I remember when I was in high school, I had a media class that I took. It was like an optional class, but I took it because I was interested in that kind of stuff. I was going into journalism eventually. And our teacher was really big on, like, you know, do you remember, like, ad busters and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of, like,
wow.
Like, debunking myths and showing how you're manipulated. So, like, we did learn all that kind of stuff, but A, that was an optional course. B, it's not offered in every school. And C, not every teacher is going to take it in that direction. So I feel like that gave me a good groundwork for things that other people didn't necessarily get. So sometimes when I'm arguing with people about stupid stuff, I'm like, how do you not see through things? But I'm like, you didn't have that foundational
That was
knowledge.
very directed at Jackie.
Pointing at me like, Jackie, you're stupid, you don't understand things.
I was the general you.
I feel very, very attacked right now.
That wasn't an attack.
I took a course called Critical Thinking.
I know.
Okay.
You are not the kind of person I'm talking about. You are a critical thinker. But when I'm arguing with people who aren't like that, I'm always like, why?
It's hard. I have not the same problem, but it's because I try not to engage in arguments. But when you see things in media and you're just like social media specifically, you're just like, wow, you are not taught how to really interpret messages and have a healthy dose of skepticism about everything you're told.
That's it.
And it's terrifying. This is my problem, is that I can't handle the rampant stupidity, and the rampant mistrust of logic and science makes me so terrified that I can't be involved in it.
So yeah, some good critical thinking podcasts. 5 to 4, You're Wrong About, American Hysteria. Highly recommend. I also want to quickly shout out, before we move on, They're Terrified and Tipsy. They're a horror movie podcast. They're a lot of fun. Really fun episodes. I like listening to their episodes because I don't like watching horror movies, but I like listening to podcasts about horror movies, and so it kind of waters it down and I can consume it very comfortably, and then I'll go watch the horror movie. But they just finished their...
Austin style, when you know everything about the horror movie before you watch the movie.
But they just finished their first season, and they did a theme song challenge, so if you check out their last episode on The Strangers. Yes, if you check out their last episode of season 1 on The Strangers, I am playing the theme song. So I just want to shout out They're Terrified and Tipsy. They're awesome. Go listen to them. And that's my shout out.
Also, I think if you go to their Twitter account, you can watch the video Austin made of her playing their theme song. So you get to see her doing all her percussion instruments.
Yes.
Looking very serious and focused.
I have a resting serious face when I play percussion. Yeah.
The other podcast I was listening to is called This Is Actually Happening.
Okay.
Just a quick one for them. It was, I think they mentioned it on My Favorite Murder, but this is really interesting because it's first person accounts of people's experiences. There's no host, there's no interjection to interrupt their narrative, which is really nice. And they just talk about crazy shit that happened to them. And honestly, I think it was My Favorite Murder as well who first talked about I've Survived.
Yeah.
Which is, again, it's a visual first-person recounting of insane stories, but I'm into it. I love hearing about the crazy stuff people did and the weird
I think there's a podcast for that now, too. I might be wrong, yeah.
And the way they've survived things and the places your mind goes to get you through these extreme circumstances. Like, my favorites are the more natural disaster, stranded situations versus someone committing violence against another person. But there's so many to choose from, and this is actually happening. And you hear people actually talking about what happened to them. It's actually brilliant. It's really great to listen to. It's very addictive. So I would recommend that one, but be warned to skip the ones that might be triggering to you.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
This has been great. This has been very helpful to me.
I need a list of all of these podcasts that I need to listen to, guys.
I've been subscribing as we've talked.
Can't think of anything else I've consumed other than Rockets candy because it's Halloween.
Oh, for our American listeners, Rockets are what you call Smarties, but you're wrong because we also have Smarties, and they are delicious milk chocolate candy-coated candy that are delicious.
They are. I love Smarties and Rockets.
We have the best of both worlds up here.
Yeah.
I went to school in the States. It was hard. It was a rough 4 years. The only two kinds of candy I like are Rockets and Smarties, so...
It's very confusing.
Yeah.
Well, you could still have Rockets, but they would just call them Smarties,
Yeah.
right?
Ask for Smarties, they would just give you Rockets?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah,
I
have
know.
you ever seen, those pictures of Rockets in the States? It looks like the exact same.
Yeah, it's exactly the
package,
same packaging. It just
but
says
it
Smarties.
Smarties on the side. It's such a mindfuck.
So they're made in, each country? With their individual
As far as
packaging?
I don't know if it was just where I was in the States, but I distinctly remember getting a pack of quote-unquote Smarties, and it said made in Canada on the package. So
Why aren't they just called Rockets?
I don't know.
America, explain yourselves.
I guess all that to say, Halloween candy, for me, is the best part of October, because scary movies I hate, and Halloween is officially canceled, so I'm just gonna buy bulk candy and eat it alone in my house doing kakuru puzzles.
Nice. I also have some Halloween candy here. Some peanut M&Ms are my fave. So I'm gonna power through a bunch of those while watching horror movies.
Have you ever put them in the freezer or the fridge?
No.
Because one of my friends swears by cold M&Ms.
Ooh, interesting.
Never tried it before, but someone try it and get back to us. Let us know what you would recommend, because it's COVID times. We're all kind of stuck in our house, and we're all looking for new products. And if it's a movie, a TV show, a podcast, or a book, I want to hear your recommendations. I want to know what you think I should put in my brain, and I'm really open to suggestion because I'm constantly bored. So please help me find something to engage my brain. I'd really appreciate it.
Agreed. Just again, our Twitter is I Hate Your Taste, and our Instagram is Hate Your Taste Pod. Please feel free to message us, tweet at us, say hello. We want your recommendations. Slide into our DMs.
Oh, and keep your eyes peeled for our future giveaway. It's coming really soon. It's going to be amazing. There's going to be a couple handcrafted items.
Yes.
And some extra special podcast related items. So if you want to get some free stuff, you should pay attention to what's coming up next.
Yes.
Jackie turned into a professional. I don't know.
Damn, what just happened?
Barf noise.
She used to have 6 drinks before we record
At
every time.
least, girl.
Next time we record, you're drinking a whole Smirnoff Ice.
With pleasure.
I think this is a good first month of a roundup.
Yeah, our inaugural.
Yeah.
Nope.
Inaugural
wrapped-up episode. Okay, maybe the 6 drinks is a bad idea.
But yeah, I think we'll do this every month, kind of do a check-in, see what we've been consuming. Like Jackie said, if you have any recommendations, we'd love to hear from you. Oh, we also have a website, hateyourtasteandmovies.wordpress.com. There's also links in there to our merch, which is on TeePublic, T-E-E Public. You can search us on there too, and we have some cool stuff coming out there. There should be some new stuff coming out soon as well. So our next episode is going to be released on Tuesday. We're going to be talking about Beetlejuice, which was my pick. Wasn't quite ready to say goodbye to October, so we're hanging on for an extra week. And thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.